my name's Tami. I'm here to show you how I use OneNote for classroom notebooks for my 6th grade math class. So I'm in my period 1 math notebook, and it came preloaded with 3 spaces. The collaboration space. I do not use this section for students to collaborate in, so I have it turned off. I'm not quite ready to make that jump for students to interact here. And I also have the content library, which came preloaded with the user guide, with an index and a glossary. I also added a few of these sections, one for learning target self-reflections, and then also for resources, where I've added links to videos and online lessons. There might be some for games or charts that I've created just as a resource so they can go back and work on a skill if they need some help with. And I also have an extension which I started using inside this content library, and I decided later that I didn't like them because in this section they can't type or write. They can't interact with this. All they can do is read. This is read only. So I'll show you in a little bit how I use this idea of extensions or challenges, and I put that into their own personal part of the notebook. So I can go back out and I could show you the teacher only section, which is where the materials are located. Let me go ahead and show you what a student's notebook looks like. So I have the units, separate units in section groups. So there's a section group here for Unit 6, and you can tell that it's a section group because it's got these 3 little tabs. And that means that this is like a group of sections, and then when I open that up, it has all of the tabs for that one unit. So I created a lessons tab where they will work on all of their lessons in. I have a practice tab where I will send them any practice problems that I want them to do. There's a cooldown tab for cooldowns that I want them to complete, and these came from the illustrative curriculum. And I also made a challenges tab. So before I put that in the content library and students would have to copy paste, and I decided to just make that in each part of their notebook. So this is this particular student notebook for Unit 6. So she can go to her name, and these are all her parts of the notebook that I can view. Okay, next, now that you know how my classroom notebooks are structured, I'll show you how I push out a lesson, a document to students once I've built it. So I use the units as a separate notebook. So I created a Unit 6 notebook. It's a separate notebook, and I sort of imagined this as like having my own teacher book that's separate from the students' books. That way I have it all in one space rather than in 3 different class periods. And so I have here for Unit 7, it has all of the teacher materials, and then the student materials right here. So after I've planned the lesson, I will go ahead and I do a lot of editing. I have a lot of ELLs in class, and so I add pictures, or I like to have my learning target and language objective right built into the lesson so students can see that. Sometimes I make the font a little bigger, just a few little edits here and there. I added a few pictures here. So once I get the lesson exactly how I want it, to send it to all 3 class periods, it's very, very simple. So there's a couple of different ways to go about this. Once I have the lesson, and here's the page, so it's in lesson section, and this is the page. If I right-click, it gives me the menu of all the things I could do with it. And all I do is scroll down to Distribute Page, and it gives me a couple choices if I just wanted to give this to one student or if I select a group of students. But I'm going ahead and send this to all 3 class periods, to all students. So I'll click Cross Notebook Distribution. So remember, this is my separate teacher version, teacher notebook. And so I can click on any notebooks that belong to me. So I have, I'm going to pick my first, second, and third period notebooks. And here is Unit 6 and Unit 7, so I click down that drop down and specific to the lessons section, and then I can click copy and it'll send it to all of those students. Alright, and it just takes a couple seconds for it to distribute that page to all students in all 3 class periods. I always double check and make sure that it's sent just fine, so I will go check first period, and I'll choose a student, and I will open up, I put it in Unit 7, and it was lessons and lesson 1 right here. And so I can see that, yep, I've loaded this, it's ready to go for the student. Okay, this is how this does look. I'm not so concerned about what it's Okay, I'll also want to load the cooldowns for students, so I'll go back to my Unit 7 teacher book. I'll go to cooldowns. This is in the student resources, and it'll be lesson 1, so cooldown 1. And I'll go ahead and I'll show the other way. I like to right-click, but you can also distribute a page by going to Class Notebook and Distribute Page. Cross Notebook Distribution, all up here in the ribbon, and choose first, second, third period. Make sure that I put it specifically in Unit 7 into the cooldown section. Copy it, and it distributes it. Takes just a few seconds, and it's done. Double check, make sure it's there, load it, cooldowns, and there it is. To quickly tell you about one of the great things that I like about using the digital notebooks is that I can edit and change any of the materials to suit my students' needs. And so you'll see here that I've done quite a bit of editing on this lesson about ratios. I have a lot of ELL students, over half in my class are ELL, and so I use a lot of pictures, and I'll also modify some of the first couple lessons with ratios to just work with some whole numbers. So I modified the graph here, and again just adding some pictures. And here's an example about how I will just kind of add some clips from the web that I found to explain some of the vocab. Or here was a video link that I put from Khan Academy, just to help kids that if they are getting stuck, they know that they have this resource that they can view just to help them out. Okay, and that's how I use the OneNote digital classroom notebooks.